Is Aemeath potentially too strong? Let's talk about it. My name is Juice, and let's get into it. Now, I will say I have been having a ton of fun playing with my Aemeath. I absolutely love the character, I think she's great, and her playstyle is extremely fun and rewarding, not to mention how performing harder rotations on her does reward you with more damage overall. But I have to say, even at a baseline, this character is too strong, and she is noticeably stronger than the rest of the characters in this game, therefore I feel like it's worth discussing. Is she potentially too strong, and how do we handle things from here on out? Okay, well I'm going to say this. She is the Sentinel Resonator of this region, or at least the equivalent of that. In terms of importance, she is basically the Sentinel Resonator. So I am not surprised that she set a new bar, because Cardathia did that back when she came out too, and Jinchi, while it's a little bit awkward to say with her, because she was one of the first characters to come out after all, appearing in 1.1, she too was also noticeably better than every other character in the game at that time, and continued to be the best DPS in the game until the end of 1.x. So Aemeath being the best DPS in the game doesn't necessarily surprise me, because I kind of had the feeling it was going to be that way, simply because she was getting so much marketing and it was pretty clear that she was the main push for Lahai Roy. So her being the strongest is of no surprise to anyone, I believe. But how strong she ended up being is a very interesting thing to observe, because she is not just really freaking good, she is definitively the best DPS. If you have a premium team, she annihilates like every other DPS that you can play, and that is not to say that other DPSs are bad, that is more so just a testament to how strong Aemeath is. Now I will say that in TOA, she is definitely being shielded quite a bit, so her performance is really inflated right now, but even if you separate her from how strong the current TOA is for her, she still can do up to 90k DPS if you're doing her best rotation. If you don't really understand that metric, know that Cardathia's premium team is 75k, and that is still a really good TOA team. I will say that Aemeath is a little bit more balanced in Whimpering Wastes, but she's not bad there either. I myself have been able to get up to 3.2k with her in terms of score, so she is far from a bad character. There is a Toon mechanic shell token in right now that does help if you're playing her Toon Break team, but all things considered, she is still decent there. Not exactly some behemoth over there, but decent enough. TOA is the place where she utterly dominates, and it's not even close. And I'll say that even if you're doing one of her easier rotations, you can still get like 85k DPS. No matter what way you look at it, she is definitively better than the rest of the cast. Now, I do want to say, I don't necessarily have an issue with Aemeath herself being this strong. That is completely fine, and I think having a broken unit like this is actually okay. What matters is that she stays the ceiling. Basically, I think that for the rest of 3.x, we should not be getting any damage dealer that goes above peak Aemeath's level. An S0 R1 Aemeath has set the bar really high, and as long as we don't go above that bar for the foreseeable future, I think that we're gonna be alright. I think that all DPSs should be below that for, at the very least, the next 6 or so months, because Kuro Games did say they want to make a big regen at least every 6 months. So if the next big main push character is on Aemeath's level, or around that level, I suppose that's okay, but this ceiling needs to stay in place for a while, at the very least. Because it is a really high ceiling, and I don't necessarily think that any old average character is going to be beating it anytime soon. But I do still think it's good to point out that we should just keep it this way for a while, and leave it at that. Now, if the next few releases are consistently around this level, which I doubt because Aemeath is just that strong, then once again, that's fine. Let's just make sure we don't go above again, because Aemeath is breaking some real records for an S0 R1 character. She is busted in her premium team, and even if you don't have her full premium setup, she can still match the premium setups of other characters. For instance, Aemeath, Linny, and Shorekeeper is as good as Cardathia Premium, all S0 R1. That's kind of a testament to how strong Aemeath is, and like I said, I don't necessarily have a problem with her being a really big, strong release. Let's just make sure that she stays the standard for the best DPS in the game for a good while. Because I think that if we get another DPS like that, that's just going to become really silly for balancing. Because I will say this, Wuthering Waves does have power creep, and I think saying it doesn't have power creep is silly. It's had it for a while, and I don't necessarily think that it's hard to keep up with either, but it does exist. You cannot tell me that Augusta does not power creep Shang Liao. This is true. And my issue here doesn't really lie with power creep, because power creep in of itself is whatever if the older characters can still clear pretty comfortably, and for the most part, if you're willing to invest a little bit extra into your older DPSs, they very much can still clear. Gion can still clear Middle Tower 4, and he can still do so with Mortefi and Shorekeeper, to be honest, if you're good enough. But if you want to make your time easier, getting Yuno and Shakona is going to make your life just that much simpler. So it's not like older characters are barred out of clearing, and I feel like that's what really matters. Power creep in of itself is okay if it's manageable. Obviously, it's not good if it's too fast and it's too stressful to keep up with, but I find that in this game, a DPS that you pulled 6 months ago is still going to clear pretty nicely even now. And I feel like because of that, generally, it's handled pretty well in this game. So I think what really matters in relation to Aemeath's power level is the ripple effect. Essentially, what I mean by this is, first of all, TOAs, I really hope, are not going to be balanced around needing the amount of DPS that Aemeath provides. Let's just hope that Aemeath is that one character that can totally trivialize it, and then the rest of the cast still has a fair shot at clearing. If it's like that, obviously it's not perfect balance because Aemeath is still going to utterly trivialize the content, but she was made to do so. As long as the rest of the cast still has a fair shot, I honestly think it's fine. And I feel like that is the crux of the potential issue. As long as the release of a really big character does not spell doom for other characters, then it's fine. Now, I'm gonna say this, Aemeath being significantly stronger than like a 1-point dex DPS just doesn't really matter in my opinion. Those DPSs are really old, so I think it's fine if they're on the weaker side, because they've been around for a long time, and the fact that they're still clearing is pretty nice. I'm more so talking about the 2-point X DPSs, just characters that released within the last year or so, or I guess within 2025 because we're in 2026 now, but you get my point. Characters that released within the last 365 days. If they're all still doing consistently well, then I think that's fine. And it's okay if some of them slowly start to fall off over time because that is just natural and that is how these games operate. But I don't want to see some insane ripple effect where TOAs are just going to become much harder now to compensate for Aemeath. As long as that isn't the case, then I honestly think having a broken release like this is just purely exciting and cool and awesome. Because ultimately, I think that throughout this game's lifespan, we've generally had pretty comfortable clear conditions. And another thing is that with Wuthering Waves, you can compensate for a lot of lost damage if you're just good enough at the game, which is also really nice. So all around, the standards for clearing are not exactly that bad, but even so, we just have to hope that things stay balanced. Aemeath is not balanced. They really easily could have nerfed her if they wanted to, and that would have been a fair decision to make, but they kept her as being as broken as she currently is, and I don't necessarily think it's all bad, because I'll admit it is really fun to use, and I understand the appeal of this. I mean, I myself really like using this big, strong, broken character, so it's not necessarily all bad. It's cool to use, but from a balancing perspective, I just hope it pans out well. Like, let me reiterate, a fully optimized Aemeath, as of now, is hitting 90k DPS. Do you want to know how much an S6 Phoebe is hitting? 110k. An S6 Zani, 118k. Now, after that point, it does get unfair because S6s start to ramp up in power, but the point stands. Aemeath's S0 is ridiculous, and an S2 Aemeath can get up to 112k DPS at the minute, which is literally more than S6 Phoebe. So, with that in mind, I do think Aemeath's power level is incredibly high. It is humongous, even. But I don't necessarily have an issue with her being strong on her own. Like I said, damage numbers will naturally go up. This on its own is okay. It's how everything else around it is handled. I don't really think that she's going to be a threat to the Whimpering Wastes meta, at least as of now. So I don't really have any concerns there because she's not exactly some killer character there. She's good, she'll work, but she's not exactly some crazy monster over there, so it's whatever. But I will say that at least for TOA, let's hope things don't start to get crazy. Now, I will say that this current TOA is a really bad metric because of how shielded she is. Like an S0 Aemeath is capable of hitting some ridiculous numbers right now because of the free 4 shield. But I'm telling you that even whenever this TOA ends and we get the next one rolling in, she is very likely still going to be really strong. Now, to be honest, her being as powerful as she was isn't necessarily the biggest surprise in the world when you consider how strong the double Tomb Break core was. like it's an insane team core. It is literally the best team core in the game as of now. So a broken DPS to go along with that, I am very unsurprised. This in of itself is just like the least surprising information in the world to me. But even so, I do still think it's worth pointing out, this is cool, okay, I do really like this DPS, but let's just cap it off there for now. Let's not push the envelope any further. It should be mentioned that as of now, her fusion burst mode kind of sucks and doesn't really have a good use case or a reason to be used over her toon break mode. Now, with that in mind, I am hoping for the best, and I am hoping that they don't push Aemeath's potential even further, because then that's going to start to get a little bit concerning. But as it currently stands, she is very strong and noticeably stronger than the rest, and I don't necessarily have a problem with that in of itself, because I find it fun. But as long as everything else is handled well, and we don't start to get insane HP inflation, we're fine. I personally think it should stay this way until the next big release, but that's just my opinion. Let me know what you think down below. Hopefully this video was able to feed you some food for thought as to whether Aemeath is too strong or not. This has been Juice, signing out, and goddamn, I sure as hell hope she be strong. She uses the Exostrider's sword!